police officer looked at me for a few seconds before speaking. Then he said something that made me want to sell the house immediately. "Whoever is doing this doesn't think they're using your address." He paused. "They think it's still theirs." Everything started about 3 months ago. But first it was just mail. Wrong address mail isn't unusual, and it happens to everyone. The first envelope was addressed to someone named Daniel Harper. I tossed it onto the kitchen counter and forgot about it. Then another arrived, then another, and soon I was getting mail for Daniel almost every day. Insurance statements, medical paperwork, bank notices, birthday cards. Everything had my address on it. Everything was addressed to Daniel Harper. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. Maybe the previous owner forgot to update something, or maybe some database hadn't been corrected. But then I noticed something strange. The mail wasn't random, it was current, active, ongoing. Daniel wasn't receiving old documents, he was receiving new ones. Someone out there genuinely believed Daniel Harper lived in my house. One Saturday morning, I opened my front door and found a package. The label had my address. Daniel Harper. Inside was a framed family photograph. A man, a woman, a little girl, all smiling in front of a house. My house, not a similar one. My exact house, the same porch, the same mailbox, the same front steps, the same flower pot next to the door. The photo looked recent, very recent. The grass had been cut exactly the way mine was. The bushes were trimmed exactly how I kept them. I stared at that photograph for almost an hour. I had never seen those people before. But they looked comfortable there, like they belonged there, like it was their home. I put the photo in a drawer. I wish I had thrown it away. A few days later, something even stranger happened. I ordered takeout after work. When the delivery driver arrived, he smiled and said, "Good to see you again, Daniel." I laughed. I told him my name wasn't Daniel. His smile disappeared and he looked confused. Then he pulled out his phone. The delivery history showed over 20 previous orders delivered to my address. Same name, Daniel Harper. The orders stretched back almost 6 months, and I had only lived there for 4. The driver kept apologizing, but I barely heard him. I was staring at the screen. Someone had been using my address before I even moved in. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next morning, another envelope arrived. This one came from an elementary school. Inside was a report card, a little girl named Emily Harper. 3rd grade, perfect attendance. There was even a handwritten note from the teacher. Emily seemed much happier after moving back into the house. Moving back into the house. I read that sentence 5 times and I didn't understand. There was no Emily, there was no Daniel. And yet documents kept arriving that suggested an entire family existed, a family connected to my address. A week later, I met my neighbor while taking out the trash. He had lived across the street for years. During our conversation, he casually asked how my daughter was doing. I felt my stomach tighten. I told him I didn't have a daughter. His face immediately changed. He looked embarrassed, then confused, then concerned. He told me he had seen a little girl playing in my backyard several times. Dark hair, around 8 years old, usually near sunset. I laughed nervously. I told him he must have seen someone else's child, but he shook his head. No. Then he pointed directly at my yard. That one. I didn't sleep much that night. For the first time since moving in, I walked through every room with a flashlight. Every closet, every corner, every window, nothing. The house was empty, at least it appeared to be. Then the phone calls started. Different number every time. No voice and just breathing. Slow, calm, patient. The kind of breathing that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. For days, the calls continued. Then one night, I stayed on the line. I don't know why, maybe curiosity, maybe fear, maybe both. Nearly 30 seconds passed. Then a man's voice quietly asked, "Did they repaint the hallway?" The call disconnected. I froze because they had. 3 weeks earlier, I had painted it gray. There was no way to see the hallway from outside, no window, no line of sight, no reason anyone should know. That was the moment I bought security cameras, front porch, backyard and driveway, every entrance. For almost a week, nothing happened. Then one camera recorded movement at 2:13 a.m. I checked the footage the next morning. A hooded man stood on my porch. He didn't knock, he didn't move. He simply stood there staring at the front door. 2 full minutes. Then he placed something beside the welcome mat and left. The package contained children's drawings, crayon drawings. One showed my house. Underneath it was written, "Home." Another showed a smiling family standing together. Underneath it was written, "US." The final drawing showed a man standing inside a bedroom doorway, watching someone sleep. There were no labels on that one, no names, no explanation, just the drawing. For some reason, that image bothered me more than anything else. A few nights later, I woke up at 3:07 a.m. No sound, no nightmare, nothing obvious. Just a sudden feeling that something was wrong. I sat up in bed and the room was dark. Everything looked normal. Then I noticed my bedroom door. It was slightly open. I always sleep with it closed. Always. I convinced myself I had forgotten him, but deep down I knew I hadn't. The next morning I reviewed my camera footage. Nothing. No intruders, no movement, no explanation. A week later, another package arrived. No return address, no shipping label, just my address written by hand. Inside was a leather-bound photo album. The first pages contained photographs of my house, hundreds of them, different years, different seasons, and different owners. Whoever assembled the album had documented the property for decades. Then I noticed something disturbing. The photographs became newer, much newer. The kitchen, the hallway, the staircase, my furniture, my belongings. The photos had been taken from inside the house, recently. One image showed groceries I had purchased only days earlier. Another showed my laptop sitting open on the dining room table. Then I reached the final pages. My chest tightened. The photographs were all of me, watching television, cooking dinner, reading, sleeping. One image showed me asleep in bed, taken from less than 6 feet away. Taped beneath the photograph was a note. I still remember every word. "You kept my room exactly the same." I called the police immediately and they searched everything. The attic, the basement, the crawl space, the garage, the yard, nothing. No fingerprints, no hidden rooms, and no signs of forced entry, nothing. For a while, I thought maybe that would be the end. Maybe the attention from police scared whoever was behind it. Then another envelope appeared. Inside was a utility bill, Daniel Harper. Different address, about 40 miles away. The officer handling my case decided to investigate. 3 days later, he called me. His voice sounded different, uneasy. He told me they had located the property. An old house, technically abandoned. Nobody had legally lived there in years. When officers entered, they found furniture, food, children's toys, family photographs. Everything arranged as though a family still lived there. On one wall hung dozens of photographs. My house, my yard, my windows, my bedroom. And in the center of the wall was the framed family picture I had received months earlier. The same smiling family, and the same little girl, the same house, my house. The officer asked if I recognized them. I said no. Then he told me something that made my blood run cold. The family in those photographs had actually lived in my house 23 years ago. Daniel Harper, his wife, his daughter Emily. One night they disappeared. No moving trucks, no farewell, and no explanation. They were simply gone. The case was never solved. Nobody knew what happened to them. The house was eventually sold. Then sold again and again. The officer told me one final detail. When investigators searched the abandoned house, they found a notebook. Most of the pages were damaged, but one sentence was still readable. written dozens of times, over and over, like someone practicing a signature or trying to remember something. The sentence said, "This is still our address." Last week, I received one final envelope. No stamp, no return address, just my address written on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper. At the top was a list, every family that had ever lived in my house. The list stretched back almost 50 years. At the very bottom was my name. Directly beneath it was a blank line. And under the blank line was a sentence. A sentence I still think about every single night, and it said, "Please write the name of the next family." 3 days later, I put the house up for sale. Yesterday, the real estate agent called me. She sounded confused, and she asked why I never showed up for the viewing, and I told her I hadn't scheduled a viewing. There was silence, and then she said, "That's strange." I asked why, and she replied, "Because the family who toured the house yesterday said you were already there." Then she described the man they met, Daniel Harper.